Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We love having you here, and it's our mission to bring you all the latest and greatest tips, skills, and know-how to make you the best that you can be. We know that you have it in you, and we're going to show you how. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to the Parafair today. And today's story is entitled No Regrets. How many of us have lived and made decisions, and after a while we kind of regret the decisions we've made? Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but so in our story today, we'll be talking about no regrets. So let's listen to our story. In a few minutes, we'll get back and talk a little bit more. Enjoy the story.
"Get out of the way, slowpoke," Jack shouted, slamming his fist on the horn. "Get that pile of junk off the road." He yanked the steering wheel hard to the left and sped past the slower car, the horn blaring as he passed. Darkness closed quickly between the two cars. Suddenly, blue lights began to flicker in his rearview mirror. "Oh, great," he grumbled aloud. "Of all the cars on the highway tonight, I would pass an unmarked police car." Pulling over to the curb, he parked under a street lamp and watched anxiously in the mirror while an oversized patrolman unfolded himself from behind the wheel of his car. It seemed to take forever as the policeman stood up beside his car, settled his hat on his closely cropped head, and then adjusted his belt and holster. Jack was fidgeting impatiently when the big man finally began to amble slowly forward. Jack sat motionless in his seat until a harsh circle of light shone on his lap, then on his face. A sharp tapping on the window prompted him to press the button on his armrest. The glass slid quietly down into the door. "Good evening, sir. Do you know why I pulled you over?" "Yes, sir, officer. I know I was speeding, and I was kind of reckless back there, I guess, but I've got an explanation." "I'm sure you do, sir. May I see your license and registration?" While Jack was searching through his wallet, the policeman continued. "You know you were going 58 in the 45-mile-an-hour zone, don't you?" Jack looked up from his task. "My gosh. I didn't know I was going that fast. You see, I've driven over 7 hours to get here and I just got off the highway. My sister called me at work and told me that I needed to come home. They're not expecting our mother to make it through the night. She's got cancer and she's been going downhill for the last 6 months." His voice trailed off. "I'm sorry I was speeding. I was just trying to get home before it was too late." The policeman wrote on his clipboard for a moment, then tore off the top sheet and handed it and the license back to Jack. "I'm sorry your mother's not well, Mr. Beckman, but you were driving much too fast. I've considered the circumstances, thinking about what I could do if I were in the same situation, and I decided I would only give you a warning ticket this time." "Thank you, officer. Thank you. I really appreciate that." "That's all right. Now drive safe. It would really be bad for your family to have to deal with you being in the emergency room at a time like this." "You're right. Thanks again. I'll be more careful. I hope so. Good night, Mr. Beckman." 15 minutes later, Jack wheeled his car into the driveway of his boyhood home. As he entered, the old house was quiet except for the soft ticking of the grandfather clock and the old familiar complaints of the floorboards under his feet. His sister Susie was in the kitchen, making a sandwich. "Jack, you made it," she exclaimed, standing to give him a consoling hug. "I was so worried about you driving so far. How was your trip?" "Fine, no problem. Has Bob gotten here yet?" "Yes, he got here about a couple of hours ago, just before midnight. He went to bed a little while ago." She saw Jack looking at the kitchen table, which was piled high with cakes and pies and buckets of fried chicken and plates of cold cuts. "You hungry?" she asked. "Want me to fix you a plate? Some of the ladies from Mom's church brought this food by. It's been a real help. There's even a ham in the refrigerator." "No thanks. I want to see Mom." "How is she?" "She's gone down fast since yesterday, but she's not quite as bad as she was when I phoned you earlier." "Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'll see you in a little bit." He turned and made his way hurriedly across the living room floor and down the hall to his mother's bedroom. He paused for a moment outside her door. "Mom?" he called, softly, gently pushing the door open. "Mom, it's me, Jack." He was not prepared for what he saw next. The bedroom looked the same as it had been since the beginning of time. Except for one thing, lying in the middle of the bed, in a circle of pale yellow light, was the frail emaciated form that had once been his mother. "Mama!" he cried, rushing to her side. His heart lay frozen in his chest until, at last, she moved, turning her head to see him. "I came to see you, Mama." Slowly, she opened her tired, blue eyes. They brightened, and a smile bloomed across her face. "Jackie," she said weakly, placing a hand on his cheek. "You're here." "Yes. I'm here, Mama." A broad smile formed on his face in spite of the tears that were threatening to escape from his eyes. "I'm here. I've been waiting for you. I knew you'd come." "Yes, Mama. I came as fast as I could. I had to be with you." "Thank you, Jackie," she said, patting his cheek lightly. "How are things going with you?" "I'm okay. But you don't worry about me. I came here to see how you're doing. You know how I'm doing, Jackie. I'm dying. I want to know how you are doing. How's that restaurant situation working out?" Jack let out a long sigh. "Same as before. Nancy says I can look into it if I want to, but she doesn't seem to be very enthusiastic about the prospects of me leaving the real estate agency. She says I should be satisfied with what I'm doing now. But, how do you feel about it?" "Actually, it kind of scares me. I'm pretty well situated at Realty One. I've been with them over 16 years and I make pretty good money. We have all we need ... and most of what we want." She fixed her gaze on him. "But what?" she asked, pointedly. Her eyes were old and weary, but they were still sharp enough to see that there was more on his mind than what he was saying. He shifted uncomfortably on the edge of the bed. "But it's not enough. I'm just not happy with what I'm doing anymore. The money's fine, but the work doesn't satisfy me anymore. Do you know what I mean?" "Yes," she whispered, closing her eyes and nodding her head in agreement. She knew what he meant. She laid her hand on his and gave it a delicate squeeze as he continued. "When I first got into real estate, I loved it. I really enjoyed working with people and helping them find the exact house they wanted. I used to love the look in the eyes of a young couple when I handed them the keys to their first new home. It used to be such a thrill." "What happened to that thrill?" she whispered from her pillow, eyes still closed, resting. "Nothing changed. Everything stayed the same. I guess that was the real problem. Nothing changed. Over the years, my life became routine. I got good in the business, and I sold more and more houses. After a while those excited expressions didn't seem to have the same effect on me that they used to." He sat there a moment, his mind wandering off. What happened to the good old days? Slowly, he drifted back to the present and he became aware that his mother was snoring softly. He held her hand a while, marveling at how warm it felt. Shouldn't it have been cool? Rising gently from the bed, he laid her hand tenderly on her lap and settled into an easy chair that had been placed next to the bed. For the next half hour, thoughts flowed freely through his mind while he watched his mother's chest rise and fall. Where had all the years gone? Where had his dreams gone? What could he do to get them back? "So what are you going to do about it?" she asked, as if there had been no break in the conversation. Jack looked up from his reverie, startled. "Well, Giovanni, the owner of Fratelli's, still wants me to consider coming on as his apprentice. I saw him a couple of weeks ago at the restaurant, and he asked me if I was still considering his offer." "Are you?" she asked, weakly, almost dreamily. "I'd really like to learn to be a chef," he said, moving back to her side at the edge of the bed. "You know I've always enjoyed cooking, and I could afford to invest in the restaurant. But Most of the time I feel like it's just a silly, selfish dream." She reached out until her hand found his, then she gripped his fingers, clutching them firmly. "Jackie, there's nothing selfish about wanting to be happy. If Nancy doesn't object to it, what's keeping you from it?" "Lots of things, Mum. I enjoy cooking and all, but what if I'm not chef material? Remember that Chateaubriand I made for the family reunion a few years ago? Doing that was a lot of fun. And one time, Giovanni even let me come back into the kitchen and he showed me how to cook scallops bonne femme. That was an awesome experience. He's a master chef, you know. But having an interest, or even a knack, for cooking is different from being a professional chef. What if I don't have what it takes to make it? You'll never know unless you try, Jack." "But, Mom, I can't gamble our future on a whim. Retirement's not all that far over the horizon, you know. It's really a risk. I don't know anything about the restaurant business. I think that is the part that concerns Nancy the most. I would hate to get us into something that might go sour on us." "Listen to me, son," she said in a stern but tender tone. "A poet once said of all the sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these, 'It might have been.' If you don't take a few risks now and then, you'll live a life full of regret." "I know. You're right, Mum. You know, Giovanni did say that he would teach me everything he knows, and he's been in the business for almost 40 years. If things go well, it could actually turn out to be very beneficial for Nancy and me. When Giovanni retires, he'll give me the opportunity to buy him out. This could actually be very good for us if things were to go right. I just don't know what to do. It really is a gamble." "What should I do, Mama?" Silence. Lost in thought, it took Jack a moment to notice how quiet the room had become. He smiled, looking at how peaceful his mother was resting. He laid his hand gently on hers and held it. Something squirmed and slipped sideways inside him. He looked more closely at her, gripping her hand tighter. "Mum?" he said. "Mum." More silence. Jack lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her fingers. He was surprised at how warm they still were. A tear rolled quietly from his eye. Rising gently from the bed, he laid her hand tenderly on her lap and made his way haltingly out of the room, calling for his brother and sister as he went. Later that morning, after the nurses and the coroner and the men from the funeral home had all gone, Jack sat alone on the front porch. The sky was turning gray in the east and the stars were disappearing one by one, and Jack sat reflecting on the last things his mother had said. Looking eastward, he said to the brightening sky, "I hear what you were saying, Mama. I won't live a life of regret. I will take the risk. I'm going to do it."
Welcome back from our story. As we look at the story and as I think about the story and how everyone has to make choices in their lives, as you look at some people who had children early, some people who waited to have children late, some people who did other things and put off things and put off things. I was recently talking to someone and they told me, I said, you need to join. I suggested that they join an organization to, reach out and just meet more people. And they said, well, I'll do it next year. And then as you think about it, how many times have we said that? I'll do it next year. Well, I'll do it the next day. I have a project that I'm thinking about right now that I need to finish up this weekend. And as I look at this project that I'm doing, I keep saying the same thing. I'll do it tomorrow when I have more time. I'll do this and I'll do that. I regret this. And eventually, I won't get the project done because I know myself. So I'm going to have to really dig deep this weekend and get it done. There's no ifs and buts about it because I don't want any regrets of like, man, if I'd have tried a little bit harder, maybe things would have been a little bit different. And that's the biggest thing I see a lot of people in life is regrets. Because we turn around, we look around, and before you know it, we're a little bit older. Or even if not we're older, like maybe we're starting high school or we're into college and we're thinking, wow, if I'd have worked a little bit harder, maybe this would have happened. I was recently walking through a neighborhood the other day, and I was thinking about some of the decisions that some of these people made about going for their goals. And it was a really nice neighborhood. I was like, wow, I wonder if they have any regrets about the things that they have attained. Do they have regrets of sticking it out when it got rough and when it got tough? And that's what usually happens. We usually have an option of when things get rough, of walking away from the situation, taking the easy way out, taking the escape hatch out the way. And that's what happens a lot. We want to get out of there. We're just like, you know what? I've had enough. I can't deal with it anymore. Because a lot of times, a lot of things when you go through life and there'll be some painful things that you do. I know I experienced some things last year where I had to turn in certain things at a certain time and it had to be on a certain, and they were very inflexible about the time that they would accept some of the documents that I sent out. So I made sure that everything was in line. And I remember one time that I had to go and get something in the middle of the night, make sure those documents were there that next morning. Then this year, I realized I don't have to do all that stuff. But I have to say, but what it has taught me is that same structure that I used the year before, I can use now. And it's going to make me better. It's going to make me a better person. But if I would have took the easy way out and not done the things, the hard little stuff, I may have some regrets in my life. And that's what it's all about, is making good decisions. And some of the decisions that you make are going to be hard. And I'm talking to certain people today, and some of the decisions they're making, they're affecting them. They're not getting their stuff done. They're trying to take the easy way out because they've realized it's not that important to them at this time. As we look at some of the things that we are regretting, you don't want to look back at your life and say, you know what, I wish I'd have did this, this, and that. You want to look back at your life and say, you know what, I did everything that I really wanted to do in life. I don't have any regrets about anything. Because I noticed this one person a long time ago, they used to smile so much and they used to light up the room. And then a couple of years, I saw that person and that smile had left. And I asked him what happened. And he said, well, you know, things got really hard. Things got really rough out there. And I was trying to get through things with smiling and being happy and being encouraging. But it just, life or something just took all the smiles off my face. And I said, wow, that's unfortunate. And I said, wow, when are you going to get that smile back? I said, that's $1 million smile or $1 billion smile, if you want to put it that way. And he said, I don't know if I ever get it back or not. I've been damaged too much. And that's what happens a lot of times. We don't think that we can dig deep and go back and get that smile back and get that joy back in our stomach. And I was talking to a colleague today and how we all woke up and we got a chance to do it again and we feel good about the day and everything was running smooth. But then we started about, oh my gosh, something may happen today. So we had that doubt in our mind. But we were excited about today, but we were like bracing because things have happened and we're trying to figure out. And that's the thing that you don't want to do is drag negative around with you. And at this point in time in my life, sometimes I'm dragging negative around with me instead of dragging all the positive things around me. I'm dragging all this negative stuff that's weighing my good stuff down. As of things, I accomplish this, accomplish that. I shouldn't have to worry about all that negativity. But every time I get up on my feet, I get knocked back down. But you got to keep fighting. You got to get back up. And they keep saying it over and over. It's not how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you get up. And a lot of times people don't want to get up. They just want to sit there and feel bad for themselves. Make a bunch of excuses. Well, I can't do this. I don't remember how to do this. And they want to hide behind the excuse monster. And that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate because we all have so much potential. And if we had a meter of the potential that we met at the end of our life, or we could check it in the middle of our life, it probably wouldn't even be close to being full. Some people may be 50%, 25%, but don't waste your potential. And I know there's a lot of things I keep saying this over and over again. You got to stay after it. You got to keep that fire in your belly burning. You don't want to look back and say, you know what? Wow. I wish I hear that all the time. If I would have known what I've known back then, things would have been a lot different. There's going to be so many times people are going to give you advice to make you better and better and better. But if you don't listen to it, you don't take it, you don't use it, it's kind of useless. So you're really going to have to dig deep. You're really going to have to think about the good things that are going on in your life. And you got to think about what I need to do to get to the next level. And that's what I'm thinking about now is what I need to do to get the next level. And I'm thinking about this podcast a lot. And I'm thinking about how sometimes in the day, I'm like, I'm going to slow down a little bit and just kick back. And it's not that important. But I don't want to have any regrets. Like, oh, you know what? You were so close to going big time, to having everything that you wanted, but you quit a little too soon. A little too soon because you figure, let's take the easy way out. The easy way out. The easy way out, they're going to let you take it. Nothing's going to happen. No one's going to say anything. But you know deep down inside of you, that's going to hurt. And then when you try to pick it up again, it's not going to be the same. It really isn't going to be the same. And as I look at the things that I'm doing and growing and trying to be a better person and trying to do this and do that, I'm going to keep pushing myself. Even when things get rough, things get tired, and I don't feel like recording today, and I don't feel like doing this today, I'm just like, you know what? You're no different. You're giving all this advice out, but you're no different from the next person who quit their diet, who quit this, who quit their job, quit when things got tough. Because you want that instant gratification. A lot of us want that instant gratification, but we don't want to put in the hard work. We want $1 million in our bank account, but we don't put $1 million effort out. And it doesn't work that way. I'm learning it doesn't work that way. I'm thinking about a project I have to do tonight, and I have a goal of what I need to do tonight. And there's part of me to say, you know what? Just relax yourself. You don't need to do all that. Everything will be fine. And I'm telling myself, no, everything's not fine. It's out there. But if I don't go after it and I don't chase it and I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing, it's not out there. I can't relax. I can't sleep at night. I say, how much time is it going to take you? 1-2 hours, the most, to get it done, collect what you need to collect, and keep moving. But we make the simplest things so complex sometimes. And it's so sad. I see some people with so much potential. I see myself with so much potential. But it doesn't mean anything if the potential does not move. If you're not moving towards your goal and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's no need for any of this talk. You're just wasting electricity. You're wasting time. But if you feel good about yourself, and to be honest with you, don't just go after your goals when you feel good about yourself. Go after your goals when you feel crummy. And that's the trick. If you can go after your goals when you're feeling crummy and you don't feel good, and you're going to go at it 100%, you're going to be fine. But only time you want to go after your goals is when you feel good and when things are going your way. It's not going to work out. It's really not going to work out. As I go through life and I go through this day that I have in front of me, I have some things that I really want to get done today. They'll get done. But I got to keep myself, like right now, I don't feel well. I really don't feel well. But I got to keep pushing myself. Today, to be honest with you, I didn't feel like recording today. Something in my mind saying you don't need to record today because you're tired. It's the part of the week that you can kick back and relax. That's that loser mentality. And I shouldn't call people losers, whatever, but that's that underachievement mentality. Let's clean that up a little bit. Because when you underachieve, you think like it's okay to take a day off. It's okay to just let things go. No, it's not. Keep yourself accountable. Keep yourself going. Keep yourself moving toward that target. And I hear people all the time think, oh, wow, I was so close, but I gave up so soon. Do you want to be that type of person that gave up you were so close, but you gave up so quickly? I don't want to be that person. I don't think people who are listening to the podcast are those type of people. because it takes some effort to find this podcast. It really takes some effort. It's not gonna. I was going through some podcasts the other day, and I was like, wow, they just popped up there. I really don't take too much effort to make those podcasts work. And that's the same thing in life. In this podcast, you're gonna have to dig to find it. You're gonna have to really dig to find it, and you have to dig deep inside of you to find what you're made of. And I'm not gonna say it's easy, but you gotta dig deep, and you'll be okay. You'll be all right. It's not gonna make you any worse. And like I told that person who was thinking about doing another activity, I said, "What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? You're doing this. Either you're gonna get better, you're gonna get good, you're gonna get better. Well, that's what you want. But if you sit there and never do anything until next year, they will wait till next year. Well, it's too late now. It's too late now. Somebody else has got that slot. Someone else has got that slot, and they want it more than you. And I like that. You got to want it more than the next person. And the thing is, you don't have to tell everybody what you're doing. Just do it. Just go out and do it. You don't have to brag about all your accomplishments. Go out, do a good job, and keep moving forward. Because you don't want to live with, man, and I see this all the time. Sometimes I'll go into a bar or something, and I'll just get a soda or whatever, sit up at the bar and just sit there and watch the sports, watch the games, whatever. Usually during NFL, I'll sit there and watch the games. And there's always that, I guess I have that face that people want to sit and tell me their story. And they start talking about this and how their wife left them, the kids don't love them, lost their job. And then I ask them, well, how did all that happen? Well, this and this and that. And it all comes back to them. It's not because the people stopped loving them. It's not because the job stopped. It's they didn't want to do certain things at the job. They didn't want to do certain things for their wife. They don't want to do certain things for their kids. And so they have all this regret in their body now. And then instead of sitting there at the bar with me, wasting time, and I'm there, to be honest with you, I'm just there, and I hate to say this, I'm just there for stories, for people can tell me stories. For I can get stuff from my podcast. People can tell me stories, and I can just sit there and listen to them. And then after they tell me a story, I write them down. And I say, okay, I can use this for my podcast. I'm there for, research. But they're there just, feeling sorry for themselves, kicking themselves about regret, about how time has moved on. And they blew their opportunities. And that's what happens a lot. We will blow our opportunities over and over again. But don't do that. Okay? Well, we want to thank you again for stopping by the Parafair, and thank you for listening and staying with the program. There's some listeners who started from day one, and they're still there, and thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.